Well, hi viewers. We are today at Sonoma District at Frontier Towers. And for the AI people, we have the pleasure of interviewing Geoff. Geoff is a pioneer in the software industry. He has some strong point of view on the future of software, and he's been driving a lot of innovation around Agentic AI. Geoff, why don't you introduce yourself and we can get right in.
Hey folks, I'm Geoff Huntley. I've been in San Fran now for the last 5 days. Tomorrow I'm over to New York. Some people might know me as the guy who created the Ralph Wiggum loop, which is a memory management technique. When if you put it in a bash loop, it can get some pretty disruptive outcomes. We measured it to be around about $10.42 an hour is the cost of software development now. Now there's a big difference between software development and software engineering.
Okay. So software development, you are saying, is getting accelerated, but there is a lot of scope for software engineering to make sure that all this accelerated software development sees the light of the day as practical outcomes.
Let's get to the definition of terms.
Okay.
Engineering has always been different to software development. Mm-hmm. Now, there are a lot of people who have their identity functions of being a software developer. Now, if you have your identity as a software developer, well, guess what? The hairdresser down the street using Cursor is now a software developer. Mm-hmm. So there's some real questions to what it means when we've gone from a knowledge scarcity economy to where it's ubiquitous. Anyone can just prompt for the right outcomes. There's going to be people out there like writing courses or teaching or like what the right things to prompt into the LLM to get really good outcomes. So if you're still there typing on a keyboard, it's pretty not a good time to be still typing on the keyboard. Now, there's a difference between typing on the keyboard and being a software developer and being an engineer. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to put forward an argument that we're locomotive engineers now, mm-hmm. and it's our job to keep the train on the train tracks. So we should be working on the business, not in the business, mm-hmm. meaning we should be designing these loops and automations and engineering the safety, like to keep the train from derailing. You can go into security incidents, you can talk about making sure that you don't provision the right, you do sandboxing, the credentials, figuring out how do we get rid of code review? Do we get rid of code review? Should we? Like really engineering, thinking along the ways that we've got this brand new way of doing things really fast. What is the responsible way to utilize this? Mm-hmm. Because the old typing software on a keyboard is gone.
Great.
I guess for anyone watching this, if your employer has banned usage of AI, you should leave your employer right now. There is a big difference between business suicide and employability suicide. Okay? Big difference. You trade time and skill for money. And the market for people who just type on a keyboard is rapidly diminishing really fast. Mm-hmm. So you should go to somewhere where you can keep your skills current.
Okay. So software engineering, in your opinion, is it more of a people skill or is it more of a raw technical skill?
Raw technical cognitive skill. Like, if the idea of running no code review in your code base makes you want a Ralph to vomit, you should listen to that. Mm-hmm. What you should do instead is engineer away all your concerns. Mm-hmm. Like what happens if it was to automatically do a migration, like typing? Oh, cool. Engineer that away. Maybe code review can be solved by not being a binary tick box, yes, no, but you can implement a risk-based approach. You can auto ship things into production mm-hmm. if it doesn't involve a database schema change, or maybe it automatically does that because you've entered in feature flags automatically. So the blast radius is constrained, like actually engineering around risk and new practices around these new technologies.
Gotcha, okay. And I know I heard you say open source is dead. So I want to double click on that and learn more about it.
Yeah, sure. I wrote something about 8 months ago saying, what's the point of software, open source software, if you can just generate it? Mm-hmm. And it's becoming true and truer every day. The reason that we had libraries, open source libraries, was essentially it made hiring easier. The reason we got React and all these other things was to expedite hiring of people. But I would like to put forward that who here has been with open source and like a maintainer's been on holidays and there's a bug on GitHub. So you got to open a GitHub issue and you got to nag, next thing you know, get cancelled, whatever. Open source maintainer burns out, all these things. Open source is being put up on this pedestal and consumed by businesses and under-supported by businesses for a very long time. This is called the open source funding crisis. Now, I put forward that potentially a solve for this, if you want to really get into software automation, well, what you can do is you just generate the software. You can literally just generate the software. There are boundaries of acceptability where it's not appropriate to generate software. Think about topics like PKI and SSL. Well, if you're a PKI SSL person, completely responsible to do. You know what is true. But like, think about how much time is consumed on dependabot updates. Think about all the supply chain attacks that happen through NPM, bad packages, takeovers, yada, yada, all the rest. Think of all the time that's taken. So we've been pleading for people to take control of the supply chain for the longest time. Longest time. And the FANGs have always they third-partied software. They take the open source software and they take complete control of their supply chain by vendoring it. Well, how about you just generate it?
Yeah.
How about you just generate it? So I've been generating all my source code now for around about a year and a half. And then I found a commonality that people who are really getting in on this stuff, they've come to the realization that there's open source, there is no real point. Because if you have to open a GitHub issue or what else have you, you're tool calling a human. And anytime you need a tool call a human, that's not AGI.
Yeah.
And if you have the source code first party, then you can continually evolve it at a pace that is much faster than your competition that's waiting for some person who's on holiday who might be burnt out or maybe abandoned the project to actually respond to a GitHub issue.
Yeah, so we live in an era where it's an abundance era, and all these software companies make money out of scarcity.
Yep.
Something differentiating that they offer to the market. So how do you see abundance and scarcity play together in the coming few years, and where do you see the software industry heading?
I would say, folks, have a look at my blog post on ghuntley.com for software development now costs $10 an hour. It gets into this in a very deep level. I think the most pressing issue is software still investable? Is there actually a market for investing in software now?
Yeah.
What are the moats?
The VCs are all like,
and all these
right?
It started around about December for me. I started having GPs at VCs give me a call and go, "Hey, I'm not even sure what to tell my LPs. Like, is there actually a moat in this anymore?"
Yeah. What is your moat? Is that a question that is relevant anymore?
But that's an upstream like fundraising question, not a downstream when it's the money's in an invested company. And I've been fortunate to have been here for the last week, and in that, that conversation is going all around the valley right now. And that's an upstream thing about funding. Like, can you raise funding and can you just responsibly deploy that funding? And that's not even getting into the meta of like, once you've received funding, like what is your moat? It's a bigger upstream problem that needs to be figured out. So I've divided the world really now into two categories. Something is either a utility, like water, electricity, gas, petrol, and it's hyper commodity. You've got many choices of electricity companies to go to get electricity. Hyper commodity, web hosting, hyper commodity, right? And things I can take screenshots of and ask Claude Code to re-implement for me. It is that brutal. I'm not saying that everyone is going to do this, but we're entering into an era of hyper-personalized software. So it is what is a moat? The idea that it was very hard to transition from one technology to the next, a database. I ran a loop that migrated me from Cloudflare D1 over to PlanetScale Postgres automatically, including data migrations. When have you ever heard of like an application being like from that to that and fully auto? What the hell? So any form of this notion of coupling and vendor lock-in being a thing isn't a thing anymore.
Makes sense.
So what is a moat? It's contracts, it's stakes and handshakes, it's relationships, it's all the hard things of business. But everything has fundamentally changed because the unit economics of software has forever changed.
Great. So yeah, we live in a brave new world, and the only way to stay relevant is to keep running and be curious, and do listen into some of the podcast resources that Jeff is making available. And on behalf of the AI people, I thank you very much, Jeff, for spending some time with us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.